I'm with Meg Penny. And Brian Flagg was here earlier.
Flagg? Where is he now?
The Blob remake is one of the goriest and most underrated horror films of the 1980s. What started as a goofy 1958 monster movie about a giant blob from space was reborn 30 years later as a shocking, paranoid and relentlessly violent cult classic. So why remake The Blob in 1988, and why does this horror movie still stand out among the best 80s remakes like The Thing and The Fly? The original Blob from 1958 is pure drive-in cinema, a B-movie creature feature that tapped into Cold War paranoia and the fear of alien invasion. It's campy, colourful and even wholesome.
Dad, it isn't vandalism. Dr. Hallen is dead and he was killed by some sort of a monster.
Teenagers become heroes, authority figures prove trustworthy, and the small town survives intact. This Blob was scary in concept, but safe in execution. A perfect reflection of 1950s optimism, even in horror.
It's got to be killed before it gets any bigger.
Well, I believe you.
Well, you're not crazy.
It's the kind of cult classic people revisit for nostalgia, not for genuine terror.
Come on, I want to see if I can find it.
By 1988, horror movies had mutated. This was the decade of The Thing, The Fly, and A Nightmare on Elm Street, where gore, practical effects, and shocking death scenes defined the genre. The so-called effects arms race meant audiences wanted to see the human body transformed, destroyed, or dissolved in ways never before possible. Practical effects were the star attraction. Against this backdrop, remaking The Blob wasn't about nostalgia. It was about reimagining a cheesy 50s monster movie as a terrifying 80s horror remake. And this remake did exactly that. In the original, the Blob was an accident from outer space. In The Blob 1988, it isn't alien at all. It's a top-secret government bioweapon, a science experiment gone wrong.
You suspected that conditions in space would have a mutating effect on bacteria, but this...
That change matters. It reflects the growing distrust of authority in the late 80s. During the Reagan era, Americans faced government scandals, secrecy and denial. The Iran-Contra affair, the AIDS crisis, military cover-ups. In the film, the military doesn't arrive to save the town. They arrive to contain it. Small-town America is expendable. Collateral damage.
I want that organism alive.
What about the civilians?
They're expendable.
The Blob in 1988 isn't an invader, it's a mirror of human corruption, a monster we made ourselves. What makes The Blob 1988 unforgettable isn't just the practical effects, but the way it shatters horror movie expectations. In 1958, the clean-cut teen hero saves the day. In slasher films of the 80s, the final girl survives through moral virtue. But The Blob doesn't care about those rules. It kills indiscriminately, with no morality, play, or formula. The hero boyfriend, Paul, the character we expect to lead the movie, dies horrifically in one of the most shocking death scenes of any 80s horror film.
Timing's everything.
Meanwhile, the rebellious outsider Brian, the punk on a motorcycle, becomes the survivor. This randomness makes The Blob terrifying. It's a subversive monster that refuses to play by the genre's rules. The Blob also represents horror itself in mutation. It fuses two traditions, the cheesy 1950s B-movie creature feature and the body horror excess of the 1980s. The result is both nostalgic and grotesque, a familiar title but transformed into something shocking, and the special effects drive this home. Bodies melt, collapse and dissolve into unrecognisable goo. These practical effects remain some of the most disturbing in horror cinema, often ranked alongside The Thing and Fly for sheer impact. The movie itself becomes a hybrid, half cult classic monster movie, half gruesome 80s horror showcase. So why remake The Blob in 1988? Because by then, horror wasn't innocent anymore. America wasn't innocent anymore. The 1988 Blob reflects a culture where institutions couldn't be trusted, where small towns weren't safe, and where monsters come from our own science and government. This horror remake transformed a silly alien from the stars into one of the most terrifying and cynical cult classics of the decade.
The Lord will give me a sign.
And maybe that's why it still matters. In the end, The Blob isn't just one of the best 80s horror remakes, it's a reflection of America itself, endlessly consuming, endlessly mutating, and leaving nothing untouched.
None but the faithful, brothers and sisters. None but the faithful.